Hello there, fellow Battlefield 6 enjoyer. I wanted to make this video just to go over some of the not so great things about Battlefield 6, because overall it has been a absolutely great experience. The launch, I think, was phenomenal. I did not have any issues with it as a Steam player. I know EA players had some issues with actually getting to play the multiplayer part of it. That being said, I have spent over 130 hours in the 16 days that the game has been live, so that's quite a bit, as you can imagine. And I also have my account over level 110, and that's without farming bots. Although, some people might want to do that. All the freedom to them, not my thing. In any case, this video is just to pretty much bring up some points that we as a community should talk about, and I think DICE should get on their plate sooner rather than later, because this game is planning to be here for the couple, years ahead right now, and I think these things need to be fixed sooner rather than later in order for us to actually have the best game we can possibly have, and not have, another generic Battlefield where 8 things are good and then 2 things are so annoying to the level that you don't really want to play it anymore, like some previous titles. Okay, while we are talking about these things, I'll just have some gameplay and stuff in the background, and I'll try and bring up some of the things, with images or whatever that I'm talking about, just to give some insight, maybe to other players that don't know the exact references or names or something of things, because I want to try and be more or less accurate, but then again, I can't really guarantee that in any way. Okay, one of the first things I wanted to talk about is the hit registration in Battlefield 6. It's no secret that if you played the beta when it was open on Steam or whatever other platforms there were issues with the hit registration in a way where you would often shoot enemies, and then even having the target on, you would see the bullets going to the target, so it's not like a bloom issue, and you would hit like 3-4 shots, the player is 70-80% damage taken, and you just don't have that last bullet hit them and they run off. And it's not like a skill issue or anything. I'm talking about real examples where you see it happen. But at the same time, we had situations where you would turn a corner and the person standing there would absolutely beam you off the face of the planet within the fraction of a second. They did not headshot you, they were completely surprised, but you somehow died almost instantly, you took all the bullets at once. I'm not exactly sure. I remember some messages floating around Reddit and whatnot about how this was a bug, and it was confirmed about how people would receive damage all at once from multiple bullets. But I wanted to bring it up because this is a thing that needs fixing, and it needs fixing not in Season 3, but pre-Season 1. Well, that's probably not going to happen, but during Season 1, it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be fixed quickly, because even people have checked their network statistics within the game, and they can see that, hey, I'm, client side is connecting 8 shots, but server side is connecting 4 shots. What's the deal? How is that even possible? We need to fix these things somehow, because I'd rather die more to legit shots than, have my bullets disappear, because that's just not fun in any world, to have your bullets disappear or have the enemy beam you within a fraction of a second. I don't know how these things aren't getting, prioritized over everything else. Of course, there's financial gain for EA and DICE, but that doesn't change the fact that this needs to be fixed ASAP. Up next is weapon balance. The great question of where the hell is it? In Battlefield 4, for example, that game took the stance of having more weapons, but have them very samey, except a few outliers, such as the AEK. But the general concept was we have them very similar to a level where you more pick of a gun based off its looks, its animations, and its feel and sounds than the actual performance of the weapon, because every weapon was viable pretty much in that game, besides the bow. Don't forget the stupid bow. It's stupid. But in Battlefield 6, they kind of took the approach of having less weapons but have them more diverse, but that has also made the situation where a lot of the weapons, especially without having their attachments, are absolutely terrible. Some examples I can give. For example, in the assault rifle category, we know bloom is a big issue. Some weapons, for example, as the SOAR 5.56 or the AK-4D, are absolute trash. But on the other hand, weapons such as the Cord, the TR-7, and to a degree the M433, which is the first weapon you get in the assault rifle section, is very, very good. And especially when you get some unlocks on weapons like the cord, they become absolute laser beams. Again, this is pre-season 1 balance patch, so if there even is one to this stuff. So some of those things are a bit weird. Then the carbine section is just absolutely insane. The M4A1 shreds anything insanely fast. It's very hard to counter. But then weapons such as the XG553R, which are directly locked behind challenges, are absolute dog water. Like, nobody understands why it's so very varying. And at the same time, we have SMGs, and LMGs. SMGs just shred at any range, even though, they're supposed to be smaller calibers, better for close ranges. Something like the SGX is better most of the time than a good portion of the assault rifles. Then looking at the LMGs, you have essentially all of the LMGs except the first one are pretty bad. Like they have their like situational spots where you can use them for something, but I would never pick an LMG over a carbine or assault rifle. There's just no reason to, unless you're memeing or you're grinding badges. I have no understanding why would you ever pick any different weapon, especially since every game mode is without weapon restrictions. You can just take whatever you want. And even then, if you can't take whatever you want, then it's weapon locked. You can just still take like any completely broken carbines weapon, whether that be the M4, the AK-205, which is insanely accurate, or the GRTBC, and you'll have a great time with those. So I don't know, like, I think they need to balance these out way more, make these weapons less impacted by the attachments. So grinding attachments just to make the weapon viable is not that big of a deal, especially since they made it so like the end game goal is collecting the badges for each weapon, right? But then you pretty much play with the weapon to unlock the attachments, but by the time you get enough attachments to make the weapon actually fun, you're almost done grinding it. So you already move on to the next weapon and you have to start the cycle all over again, so it's almost pointless. So that's the only kind of logical defense I have for people that want to grind bots to get mastery experience, but I believe that's not even really efficient anymore. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't understand why they did it like this. I think more people need to, try all the weapons out and give some feedback on them, on how exactly they can be tuned to make it worthwhile. But yeah, just some of these things like the SMGs just being overall better than any LMG and stuff like that, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, especially in a game like Battlefield, nobody's going to be sitting across the roof with a bipod down their LMG. They're going to be running around with these things, especially in these confined maps that we have in Battlefield 6. So if they're not worthwhile with a vertical grip on them, there's just no reason for them to even be in here, That's just my opinion on the topic. If you've seen anything regarding Battlefield 6 lately, it's probably something to do with the maps. The maps are not the best we have seen within a Battlefield title in a long time. Some of them are better than others. For example, Iberian Offensive is one of the better infantry maps. Same goes for Siege of Cairo, but in Siege of Cairo you can definitely feel it's more of a hallway shooter type of map. It's not really that impactful from a Battlefield standpoint. A majority of the destruction on the map is also very lackluster. Like, it doesn't provide you anything, no advantage, no tactical sense, nothing. It's like you blow up a wall or a part of a building. Okay, sure, it crumbles, but so what? The position has not lost enough of its, tactical advantage to a level where, they need to worry about a different angle now or something. Like, sure, you can open up walls and stuff, but again, it's not meaningful enough for a Battlefield title, in my opinion. You still run down the same hallways, you still have fights in the same choke points. It doesn't change much. It's very standardized. Something like Iberian Offensive, as I mentioned, is a little bit better. The destruction is not that meaningful there either, but then again, since the points are very focused around these buildings themselves, having them opened up a little bit does change the flow of battle differently, especially on Iberian Offensive's B point. If you know that point in Conquest, that's a big one. Liberation Peak, I think, is one of the best Conquest maps we have in Battlefield 6. It's decently fair for both sides. The vehicles play great on the map. Air vehicles have places to hide. They can avoid lock-ons. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to gadgets. But it's a very solid all-rounder. I understand why they showcased it very proudly within the beta. That being said, next up we have Empire State. Also decent infantry map, plays well both in Breakthrough, in Rush, in Conquest. It's fine, there's no issues with it. Firestorm, man, I love this map in Battlefield 4. I hate it in Battlefield 6. It feels bland on Breakthrough. It is an absolute pain. It does not make any sense how these sectors have the vehicle spawns for the attackers and defenders. Oftentimes you just have a complete wall on either side. Either the attackers push through like nothing was there, or the defenders, most of the time, lock in so hard that you cannot get anything done. And the fact that you contribute to the points sometimes from the upper floors of the like the refineries and whatever, it makes no sense. It's completely camp heaven, sniper heaven. Later in the matches there's no cover. It honestly doesn't play great in my opinion. Some of the mountains do provide decent cover for air vehicles. I think that's fine. But having you get locked onto the second you leave spawn, or like even in spawn sometimes, it just feels terrible in my opinion. I can't put my finger exactly on what, but something in Firestorm just doesn't work in this version. It's really hard to nail it down. Saints Quarter, I mean, it's a map. It's only in the very, very small sized infantry modes. I played it only a dozen times. It played fine, in my opinion. Some of the spots didn't make sense. There's maybe a bit too much vegetation where you can't tell if a player is just prone in it or not. That's whatever. Sobek City, terrible piece of garbage. It needs to be removed, or like every roof needs to be dead zoned off so you can't go there. In Breakthrough, people are exploiting to get up there. The ladders will, again, get to the gadgets, make this map just a pain. It's really terrible. In Breakthrough, it's terrible. In Conquest, it's ass. Nobody likes running across the field without cover, getting sniped everywhere. Air vehicles have no cover on this map, even with these huge-ass buildings around. It's just this construction site heaven, which is very generic and doesn't play well. Sometimes, yeah, I honestly don't know. It's just terrible. I would really love for it to get removed. Mirak Valley. It's one of the biggest maps we have in Battlefield 6. That being said, it's weird. On Breakthrough, it's terrible. That's mostly because of the bugs of vehicles not spawning for the attackers. For the defenders, it's quite boring. The second sector within the actual construction buildings plays like ass, since vehicles can spawn camp the attacker's spawn point. Defenders have an easy time running around the building. You have to constantly run across wide open spaces with absolutely no cover, and some of the cover is just so strong. For example, first sector's A point, very easy point to hold for extended periods of time, and the defenders spawn so insanely close to the actual capture zone that the the attackers have such a hard time actually pushing into the point, even with their vehicles, when they do work, which is a bit astonishing in my opinion that it's that unbalanced. Especially if the defenders knock out those vehicles quickly, or you have some kind of absolute pleb take the vehicles, you're just screwed for the whole match. You really can't do anything. You're just losing on first sector guaranteed at that point. It's very hard to do anything. Manhattan Bridge, this was like the big hyped up map for Battlefield 6. It's like, it's New York, there's this big bridge. On Breakthrough, I think this map is phenomenal, both in the vehicles it gives, the point layout, the locations of it, plays magnificently. On Conquest, I would say it's fine, but you always get into this like circle jerk of running between the points in a huge zerg and nothing ever happens. The attack chopper feels a bit too big for this map, because you can only cover realistically like 2 out of 5 points right on the map, and it feels a bit weird to use it. It feels like maybe a little bird would have been better, that's more agile, more able to go between the buildings, but the way you have to like pitch down with the helis, it feels, I don't know, a bit weird. It's like, okay, the gunner's gonna have a good time, but the pilot himself, yeah, not really. Also, the fly area on all of these maps is so insanely small except Firestorm. It's like, why would you even have flight vehicles in these maps if you can barely, do a strafe and turn around before you're already out of bounds? Like, Liberation Peak and Firestorm are like the only exceptions to that. On everything else, it just feels terrible. The only downside, I would say, for Manhattan Bridge is that vehicles, ground vehicles to be more exact, don't play all that well on it, because there's multiple floors or multiple points of verticality and 360 degrees around you that you can be mined and shot from an RPG, and it makes it almost impossible to play efficiently with the current state vehicles are in, which is another point we're going to get to still. But it's very jank in my opinion. So I was first going to make a completely separate section about how the gadgets are very gimmicky and pointless, most of them, but it turned out to be such a long rant about it that I think I'll try and make it a separate video. But besides that, in regards to gadgets, what I mostly wanted to point out is that most of them are absolutely useless. They're very gimmicky. They're not worth the unlocking nor the usage of them in regular conquest, breakthrough, and escalation matches. Things like the drone exploit have been absolutely wrecking Devastation on most matches that I have been playing, especially in breakthrough on maps like Sobek City, Siege of Cairo, even Liberation Peak to some degree. It has been absolutely painful. I do not understand how DICE did not release a hotfix for the drone glitch like day one. The second you see videos of people popping up onto rooftops and out of bounds, it should have been fixed right that second. It has absolutely devastated gameplay right now within most matches. Like you see it every single Sobek match that someone glitches on top of a rooftop or out of bounds, either with a drone or with the stupid ladder, because those are the only two things those people use it for. Like the spotting thing with it getting scored, that's fine. But that specific thing is bugging me out. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed ASAP. And the fact that was nothing mentioned about it in the season 1, changes that they publicized. I was very shocked. I was very shocked about that. They need to address this like immediately. But besides the drone, there's also the challenges themselves, which unlock various gadgets. Talking overall about the challenges, I do agree with the majority of the community that these challenges are way, way, way over the top. Like getting those, was it like 150 headshots? That was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I do agree that the name says challenges, not just minor tasks, right? So they need to be a bit challenging, because this game is going to be out for years, people. You don't need to unlock everything within the first 2 weeks of the game being out, okay? And, like, not having that one weapon, the second you want it is not that huge of a deal that you need to write, like, a 30-paragraph post on Reddit and, tag DICE devs about how can they do this? This is impossible. That being said, again, some of the challenges are way overblown, and at least like 95% of them do not track properly, are bugged in some kind of way, so it makes it almost impossible to do it, or it drags it out such an unreasonable amount of time that it becomes on the verge of impossible. So I think that should have been addressed day one as well. I don't understand how can they be fiddling around their thumbs this long if people cannot complete the challenges, which is a very, core concept of the progression within this game. So that's also very alarming. And if they intend to do any more challenges in the future, they need to be tested and reassured that they work fully before getting released to the masses. And so yeah, that's just terrible. Also needs to be fixed. Another point regarding gadgets, I guess I can tie this into, is the classes itself. The classes mostly feel, I don't know, not really balanced as they were previously. In this case, Assault feels almost pointless, because why would you play an Assault? Like, you can kill anything with anything, right? And you can play any gun on any class, so what's so special about Assault? Most of the gadgets are absolute dog water. You shouldn't take them. The only reason I have found really to play Assault is the recon beacon, or not recon beacon, the spawn beacon. It is a very good item, especially in breakthrough, that gives you such a leg up that you kind of force one player in your squad to play Assault just for that item. If it wasn't for that, Assault would be absolutely zero playtime. There's no reason to play it. The adrenaline injector sucks, the gadgets suck, it's terrible. Engineer is only good for the AT capabilities. There's nothing else appealing about the class. You don't really need it otherwise. Support is very overpowered. You can do anything. You can push, you can heal, you can resupply your ammo. You're just a walking, team on your own back. you don't need anybody else. You will always succeed just playing support. The only rare cases is when you meet a vehicle. Then there's a little bit of an issue, but you can very easily avoid those in most maps just because of the verticality, just because of these sub routes that you have within buildings and other types of things, is that you are very... there's very few times where you're forced to engage with a vehicle, and even in those times you have options such as smoke to just completely avoid it then. So that's that. And then recon's also very like niche, you know, like sniping is its thing, but I haven't really noticed it being that helpful in most matches, even if they do snipe. Obviously it's a objective oriented game, so that's that. The gadgets of the sniper, like the targeting thing, is obviously useful for the Bradley trick, which I'll still get into. But overall else, like, there's nothing special about the class. If you want to snipe, that's pretty much the only case you use sniper. I don't think the usual loadout in Battlefield 4, which was this like close range sniper where you had a carbine and you use the spawn beacon and tugs to play close range, I think that has absolutely been destroyed with the fact that spawn beacons are no longer recon items. I think if they bring that back as a class thing, maybe recon close range will become viable. Right now, just placing claymores, it's a bit gimmicky, easy to notice. It's not effective enough to be played that way, in my opinion. And then we get to the vehicle combat. I think that is one of the roughest parts of Battlefield 6 right now, from any other Battlefield that I can imagine right now. I think it's terrible, honestly. And I'm going to try and go quickly one by one through the vehicles and just say my quick points on why I think so. The main battle tank, people are complaining that it's hard to kill. I think the exact opposite. It's too easy to kill. People are not the same as they were in 2013. People quickly swap class, pop 3 RPGs at a tank, and it's dead. I also think there's a glitch right now where RPGs sometimes do critical hits from the front, meaning sometimes you're just facing perfectly head-on onto an engineer. He shoots a rocket at you in the front plates, and it does like 60% of your health. I think that is absolutely unrealistic to be healed through. It makes vehicle combat very hard. The explosive radius of most of the shells, especially the one that is labeled high explosive, is absolutely ridiculously small. It can't even clear a small room. That needs to be increased. Tank-to-tank combat is insanely boring. It's just like a bonk, 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 bonk situation. You know, who gets the first shot off, and then if a single person gets another rocket in them, it completely sways the battle. It's not fun. It's not engaging. It doesn't take any tactical sense or positioning or anything. It's absolutely brain dead stupid on how easy it is. The machine gunning in main battle tanks feels very, very nice, I would say. And all of the other upgrades within the tank itself are very generic. And I think your gunner always has to run the mine countermeasures, otherwise the vehicle is completely pointless because there's just so many mines in this game. IFV feels mostly good. The splash radius of high explosive, again, pathetic. Aim guided rockets, like the normal, toes that you control with your viewpoint, those are too easy to hit on helicopters. Besides that, they're good against vehicle combat. I think that's where it's kind of fair. The insane lock guided missiles plus gunner target designator, that has to be fixed. You should not be able to mark vehicles from such an insane range. I think that is broken. I don't think it should be in this game. I think it should be just like it was in Battlefield 4. Like, if you got targeted or painted or whatever, the second a missile is coming, it accurately informs you and you just flare and it's done, dealt with. Like, it should be an alternative AA method. It shouldn't be like a foolproof way of guaranteeing a kill on an air vehicle. It has made conquest escalation on maps like Firestorm, Liberation Peak, really any vehicle map with air vehicles, absolutely unplayable. I think it's absolutely terrible, and it needs to be changed like ASAP. This is like day one fixes I'm talking here, right? This shouldn't be a thing that gets dragged out for extended periods of time. That being said, all the other things kind of generic. I wish there was more customization options for the gunner. I think it's a bit boring, in the way that you can't customize too much. Anti-air, I don't know, it just feels weak. The primary weapon is terrible. Against air or against ground, it's crappy. There's a lack of customization there for the weapons. Attack heli is the only vehicle I think that currently works so nicely and perfectly that not a lot needs to be changed. I do wish there were more customization options for the gunner, But I think in the equipment and weapons area of the heli and how it flies, I think it's perfect. I don't think anything needs to be changed. It's just great. Jets feel good in the air. They feel absolutely trash on the ground. Ground combat is terrible, and it completely relies on you flying constantly back to resupply in these stupid little loops. That's all it is. Loop around the map, and that's the only way to play them. I think it's terrible. It's boring. It's unintuitive, and there's a clear lack of customization. Because there is no customization for the jets. How is that not in this game in Battlefield 6? Like, we had so much customization with jets and stuff in Battlefield 4, and we have nothing in Battlefield 6 on launch. Like, what do you mean? That has to be a core thing that's in there. And the fact that it's not is very surprising to me. And that is pretty much it. That's all that I can think about and rant about for the moment. I think I did a pretty poor job overall of explaining everything in like a concise manner, but the idea was to give enough contextual logic behind it so you can understand where I'm coming with these things, because every item might fit in very specific occasion. Let's say the ladder, for example. But the question is, how frequently does this specific occasion come up where the item is utilized to its maximum potential and makes actual sense within this game, which is something else then again. So hopefully this brings up some discussions. Hopefully someone cares about my thoughts here. And, I would love to hear what you guys think. So that's pretty much it. Bye-bye.